A sharp sunrise cuts across the airfield as Marcus steps onto the dust, hearing mocking voices from nearby crews saying the Red Tails will never make it past their first real fight. But he keeps walking, refusing to bend even as doubt tries to crawl into his chest. A torn bulletin flaps on a cracked board, calling his squad a waste of planes. And a cold thought hits him. What if the men trusted to protect the bombers are the same ones being blamed before their engines warm? Engines howl overhead, a wounded bomber dragging smoke like a warning, and the laughter around him gets louder, pressing against him like heat. Then a white pilot steps forward, grinning wide, asking if Marcus came to watch real flyers work today. And Marcus steps close enough for the man to feel his breath. As he says the sky exposes lies faster than any report, the smirk fades. A runner delivers orders for a dangerous escort, and as Marcus reads the page, he feels the air tighten because today isn't about pride. It's about proving someone wrong, in a way no voice can deny. He folds the paper and knows the moment he takes off, the world will start watching. Marcus gathers the squad beside his Mustang, telling them the mission is dangerous, and the only way to silence the airfield is to bring every bomber home without losing a single man. Torch tries to mask his nerves with a fast joke. Gearbox wipes grease from his palms, and Naomi watches from a distance, gripping her clipboard tighter each second. Marcus lays out the route, the expected enemy fighters, and the unspoken reason they were chosen. The command thinks they won't survive it. The squad stands steady, breathing slow, knowing justice won't come from a speech today, but from whatever they carve into the sky with discipline and courage. The squad tightens their gear as engines come alive across the field. Gearbox works through final checks with quick hands, muttering about machines having moods, and today every engine must behave. Torch brags that he wants the first kill, but Marcus reminds him that victory is measured by how many bombers make it home. The comment lands hard, pulling quiet over the group as the roar of engines grows. The runway stretches out like a challenge, and Marcus feels the pressure building. This flight isn't just a mission. It's a chance to rewrite a story written by people waiting for them to fail. Marcus settles into his cockpit, the smell of oil and heat mixing with adrenaline. He glances at the line of red tails, pilots locking in with fire in their eyes. Major Kessler watches from a jeep, arms crossed, looking like he already expects to sign their loss reports. Marcus refuses to carry that weight. Instead, he grips the controls and reminds himself that the sky is the only place where truth can't be twisted. As propellers roar louder, he whispers a quiet promise that today the Red Tails will earn something no one can deny. The Mustangs roll toward the runway, engines shaking the ground as Marcus leads the formation. Naomi watches with a grip so tight her fingers blanch, hoping the sky shows mercy today. Torch fills the radio with nervous humor until Marcus cuts through with calm strength, telling the squad to rise with order because the world is listening. As their wheels leave the earth, the red tails catch sunlight like burning streaks, and Marcus feels the shift. This is no longer about proving they belong. This is the moment history stops doubting. The red tails climb higher into the cold Italian morning, the ground shrinking until the world becomes nothing but sky, sun, and the sharp hum of purpose. Marcus leads the formation with calm breathing, watching the bomber group ahead flicker like silver sparks moving toward danger. Torch's voice crackles with excitement, but beneath it Marcus hears the same fear locked inside everyone's chest, a fear shaped by years of being told they're not enough. The radio picks up faint German chatter, and Marcus signals the squad to tighten, feeling the mission shift from practice to survival. Below them, smoke scars the fields as if the land itself remembers every fallen crew. Marcus scans the horizon, hunting for shadows, knowing the first attack always comes fast and loud. Then he spots something slicing through distant clouds, dark specks growing larger with every heartbeat. Enemy fighters. The moment snaps like a wire pulled too tight. Marcus orders the squad to prepare, his voice steady, because justice isn't waiting on the ground. It's coming straight at them with guns ready. The enemy fighters burst into view like a swarm of angry hornets, diving straight for the bombers. Marcus orders the split, sending Torch and 2 others to shield the left flank while he cuts toward the center. Tracers rip through the air, glowing like burning needles fired from every direction. The bombers hold formation, trusting the red tails more than command ever has, and Marcus feels the surge of responsibility hit his chest. He locks onto a fighter closing on the lead bomber, pushing his Mustang so hard the engine groans in protest. The sky becomes a storm of metal and fire, every second stretching into a lifetime. Torch shouts that one enemy is on his tail, but Marcus can't break yet. He's too close to losing a bomber. He lines up his shot, breath steady, and squeezes the trigger. The enemy fighter jerks, flames bursting from its wing as it spirals away. The bombers are safe for now. But Marcus knows the real fight is just beginning. Justice in the sky costs sweat, grit, and steel, and they've only paid the first piece. The sky shakes with explosions as the dogfight spreads across miles of open air, every engine screaming like it's carrying the whole war on its back. Marcus pulls into a tight climb, feeling his plane vibrate as he hunts for Torch, who's still dragging an enemy on his tail. He spots them near a cloud bank, Torch weaving hard, the enemy fighter closing each second. Marcus angles behind them, breath locked inside his chest, knowing one wrong move ends the young pilot's future. Torch curses over the radio, panic seeping through the static. Marcus lines up the hostile fighter, waits for the moment when both planes cross paths, and fires a short burst. The enemy jerks, smoke pouring from its nose as it dives out of the fight. Torch lets out a shaky laugh, the kind that hides relief too big to say out loud. Marcus warns him to stay tight and disciplined, because recklessness in the sky doesn't just kill men, it kills true. Their squad's survival is the only language command will listen to. And today, every second writes their story in fire. The fight shifts again as more enemy fighters arrive, slicing through the sky from above. Marcus calls for a tighter defensive ring around the bombers, refusing to give a single inch of air. The squad responds instantly, their discipline shining as bright as the red tails flashing in the sun. Bombers rumble forward, trusting the red tails to keep them alive through the storm. Marcus spots 2 enemy fighters, diving in a coordinated strike, aiming for the bomber carrying high-value cargo. He pushes his Mustang so hard the controls resist, but he breaks through and cuts across their path, forcing them to scatter. One enemy fires wildly, bullets tearing past Marcus' canopy. The sound is sharp, terrifying, and somehow grounding. He loops hard, locking onto the second attacker before it can regroup, and chases it through a maze of cloud and shadow. The enemy finally breaks and withdraws, giving the bombers more room to breathe. Marcus circles back, pulse racing, but his voice stays steady as he reminds the squad that justice isn't a word today. It's their shield. Smoke trails drift across the sky like torn flags as the last wave of enemy fighters retreats, leaving the red tails panting through their radios, but still alive. Torch cheers, voice cracking with adrenaline, and a few others laugh with the shaky relief of men who know they just pushed back death. Marcus checks the bombers. Every one still flying. The weight of that victory settles deep inside him, steady and warm. They've protected the bombers better than any squad expected to fail. Marcus signals the squad to regroup, but before they settle into formation, a final echo of danger appears on the horizon, a lone fighter moving fast and low, as if hunting for one last strike. Marcus orders everyone to stay sharp, the mission not done until the bombers are safe at base. His voice holds the kind of command that can only come from carrying both the burden and the hope of an entire unit. Justice is finally tipping their way, but the sky always asks for one more test. The red tails escort the bombers across the border toward friendly territory, but the lone enemy fighter grows larger in the distance, flying low with a strange, deliberate calm that makes Marcus tighten his grip on the controls. Torch murmurs that something feels wrong, and the rest of the squad shifts uneasily Sensing a trap, Marcus orders everyone into a protective arc around the bombers, refusing to let a single plane slip through after surviving the earlier storm. As the enemy approaches, it rises sharply, leveling out just long enough for Marcus to recognize the maneuver of a pilot who isn't attacking the bombers. He's hunting them. The fighter darts toward the edge of the formation, peeling off one pilot from the group like a wolf selecting prey. Marcus dives after him, engines screaming as he warns the squad to hold the line no matter what. The enemy cuts through clouds, using the sunlight to blind anyone chasing him, and for a moment Marcus loses visual, heart pounding. When he finds the fighter again, it's already behind one of his men. Marcus pushes forward with everything he has, knowing the smallest delay might cost a life. The lone enemy fighter snaps into a tight spiral, dragging Marcus deeper into broken clouds. The radio crackles with worry as the squad struggles to keep formation without their leader, but Marcus tells them to stay locked on the bombers, or everything they fought for will crumble. He pulls into a steep climb, trusting instinct more than sight, and bursts through a clearing just in time to see the enemy set up a shot on a trailing red tail. Marcus dives, cutting across the sun, forcing the enemy to break formation or collide. The tactic works. The hostile fighter jolts sideways, its path thrown off course, but the move launches Marcus closer to danger. Bullets streak past his canopy, missing by inches. His breath shakes, but he refuses to slow down. The bombers continue forward, steady and unaware of how close the squad came to losing control. Marcus orders the pilot he saved to rejoin the arc, then warns the enemy will strike again. In the quiet seconds that follow, Marcus feels the pressure settle deep, knowing leadership is not only about skill, it's about carrying a fear no one else can afford to feel. The enemy pilot finally circles back toward the bombers, moving with precision and patience, as if he's testing the red tails rather than trying to escape. Marcus senses the man's skill. There's a cold confidence in the way he controls the fighter, banking so smooth it almost looks effortless. Torch begs for permission to break formation and join the chase, but Marcus refuses, reminding him that discipline, not speed, keeps men alive. The German fighter darts between scattered clouds, drawing Marcus farther away, then suddenly cuts downward, forcing Marcus to follow or lose him completely. The two planes spiral toward the earth, engines screaming under the strain. Marcus matches every move, refusing to allow the enemy to pick apart his squad one pilot at a time. Near the bottom of the dive, the enemy pulls up with violent force, leveling out and firing a short burst, meant to bait Marcus into overreacting. Instead of flinching, Marcus rolls his plane, catching a glimpse of the bomber formation still intact far above. That single sight steals him. He'll end this chase not out of anger, but to protect those counting on him. Marcus and the German pilot break from the dive, leveling out over quiet farmland scarred by deep craters and burned fields. The sudden calm is eerie. No tracers, no explosions, only the distant hum of the squad far above. Marcus senses this is what the enemy wanted, a duel far from the bombers where no one can interrupt. The German fires first, a burst that slices the air near Marcus' wing, forcing him to jink hard and climb. Marcus fires back, but the enemy rolls away with smooth precision, revealing a pilot who has likely survived dozens of fights. The duel becomes a dance. Short bursts, sharp turns, heavy silence. Marcus feels sweat gathering under his gloves, but he keeps his movements steady. In rare pause, he catches sight of the red tails overhead, tiny dots circling the bombers. The image fuels him. He cuts sharply across the farmland, climbs into sunlight, and flips into a fast descent that places him behind the enemy. For the first time, he has the clear shot. His heart kicks hard, not with excitement, but with the weight of choosing the moment that ends the threat to his men. Marcus hesitates only long enough to confirm the sky behind him is clear. Then he fires. The burst strikes the enemy fighter's side, flames spitting from its engine. The German pilot loses control, the plane spinning into a downward spiral. Marcus watches it fall, feeling no thrill. only a heavy relief that his squad is safe. He turns upward, rejoining the formation as Torch cheers that the threat is gone. The other pilots breathe easier, but Marcus keeps his voice firm, warning them that victory means nothing if they grow careless. The bombers continue toward friendly lines, their silver bodies glowing in the afternoon light. As Marcus assumes position at the front of the formation, a new feeling rises inside him. A quiet certainty that today's survival has shifted something deeper. They weren't just good, they were undeniable. And somewhere on the ground below, someone who doubted them will soon hear the truth in the only form that matters. The Red Tails brought every bomber home. The landing strip comes into view as the Red Tails guide the bombers home. The harsh afternoon light washing over the airfield like a silent announcement. Marcus feels the weight of the mission settle as the wheels touch down. But before relief can take hold, he spots Major Kessler waiting with stiff posture and a look that hides more doubt than respect. Torch rolls in behind Marcus, cheering over the radio, unaware that the hardest part of the day has not yet been faced. Mechanics rush out, and Naomi runs from the medic tent, scanning the returning planes like a mother checking on children after a storm. Marcus climbs out of his Mustang as whispers ripple across nearby crews who expected losses, not a perfect escort. Kessler steps forward, voice clipped, asking how they managed to bring every bomber back, as if the victory is a problem he must solve. Marcus answers simply that discipline wins battles. The truth stings the air, quiet but sharp. Naomi's relieved smile softens the moment, but Marcus knows the battle for respect continues on the ground long after the skies fall silent. The airfield buzzes with confusion as crews swarm the bombers, counting bullet holes but no casualties. Gearbox rushes to Marcus with a grin that can't be hidden, saying the squad flew like they were born in the sky. Torch brags loudly about dodging an entire wave of fighters, and the other pilots join in with tired laughter, the kind that shakes loose the fear they carry. But Kessler cuts through the noise, demanding a report as if success needs to be dissected. Marcus stays composed, handing over the paperwork while the Major tries to detect flaws, searching for any detail that weakens the Red Tail's achievement. When he finds none, his silence becomes an admission he doesn't want to make. Naomi watches from the side, seeing Marcus carry the weight with steady shoulders. She quietly tells him that no amount of doubt can cover what they did in the sky. Marcus nods but says nothing. Recognition never comes easy. Justice arrives in slow steps, and today is one of them. Later, in the briefing tent, the squad sits across from Kessler as he questions every maneuver they made. His tone stays cold, but beneath it, Marcus senses a grudging curiosity. Torch taps his foot impatiently, while Gearbox keeps his hands folded tight, knowing any wrong word could shift the room's mood. Marcus explains the split-second choices, from the high-altitude defense to the chase with the lone fighter, keeping his voice steady and leaving no room for doubt. The tent grows quiet, as Kessler realizes the squad didn't get lucky. They outperformed expectations with precision and control. Naomi enters with casualty reports showing nothing but bruises and exhaustion. Kessler's face tightens, the truth pressing hard against years of prejudice. Marcus watches him struggle with it, saying nothing, because justice doesn't require shouting. It requires facts that cannot be changed. When the debrief ends, the Major dismisses them with fewer words than usual, but the silence he leaves behind feels heavier than any speech. Outside the tent, the squad gathers under the fading sun. The warmth softens the tired lines on their faces. Torch says the mission proved they're ready for tougher assignments, and Gearbox nods, adding that their success will be shouted across the base by morning. But Marcus knows how slowly truth travels when people don't want to hear it. Naomi joins them, gentle pride in her eyes as she tells them she's never seen a return line so unbroken. For a moment, the squad relaxes, leaning against crates, letting the weight of the day slide off their shoulders. Marcus looks at the runway, seeing shadows stretch long across the field like reminders of everything they still have to fight for. He takes a slow breath, sensing the tide beginning to shift, even if only by inches. Justice rarely arrives all at once. It shows itself through the footsteps of men walking back alive. Night settles over the base, painting the sky deep blue as the red tails gather in the dim glow of lanterns. The air cools, carrying the scent of fuel and dust, and the quiet feels almost unreal after the chaos of the morning's battle. Torch finally asks the question they've all been holding. Does Marcus think command will acknowledge their success? Marcus answers honestly. Respect given by force is the only kind that lasts. His words settle over them like a calm wind. Gearbox leans back, saying if today doesn't change things, nothing will. Naomi appears with blankets, reminding them they're still men who need rest as much as victory. Marcus looks around the circle, seeing pride, exhaustion, and something new: belief. The kind that no insult can drain. As the lantern flickers, Marcus whispers that today was just the beginning. The squad nods, ready for whatever comes next, because justice has finally taken root, and now it has to grow. Dawn breaks with a sharp chill as Marcus steps onto the airfield, feeling tension in the air before a single engine turns. Rumors swirl across the base. Command is planning a high-risk mission, one they expect only the most skilled squadrons to survive. Torch arrives with a restless grin, masking nerves that twitch beneath the surface. Gearbox wipes grease from his hands as he announces the Mustangs are ready, but his voice carries a tight edge that betrays his worry. Naomi approaches with calm steps, telling Marcus that some officers spent the night questioning whether the Red Tail's success was skill or luck. Marcus breathes slowly, letting the doubt slide off him like rain. But the truth stings deeper. Today they won't be judged by what they fly. They'll be judged by what others want to believe. A runner delivers sealed orders, and Marcus reads the mission outline. Escort a bomber group into territory so deep the enemy practically owns the sky. Torch whistles low. Gearbox mutters that command must be testing them. Marcus closes the folder with quiet resolve. Tests don't scare him. Lies do. The squad meets inside the briefing tent. Maps spread across the table, showing a flight path that cuts straight through enemy-held cities and anti-air corridors. Marcus explains the plan with steady clarity, marking danger zones, expected fighter groups, and the narrow return route. The squad listens with heavy focus, Torch tapping his fingers restlessly, others leaning in with tightened jaws. They know the risk. This mission isn't about proving skill, it's about proving survival against odds stacked by design. Kessler enters mid-brief, silent but observant, his expression unreadable as he watches the Red Tails plan like seasoned veterans. Marcus continues without pause, refusing to shrink under the Major's gaze. When the briefing ends, the squad rises with quiet determination. Torch mutters that if command wants to see history made, they're about to get a front-row seat. Marcus only nods. Today the sky won't just test them. It will judge them. Engines roar as the squad prepares for takeoff. Mechanics rush between planes, tightening bolts and checking fuel lines, while pilots settle into their cockpits. Marcus scans the lineup, feeling the weight of leadership heavier than the steel around him. Naomi approaches his plane, her eyes steady as she tells him that the outcome of this mission will echo far beyond the runway. Torch calls out from his Mustang that he's ready to carve their names into the sky if that's what it takes. Gearbox slaps the side of Marcus' plane, promising every engine will hold. The sun rises higher, casting bold streaks of red across the Mustang tails like they're already on fire. Marcus takes a long breath, whispering a private vow to return his men home again. As the signal flare shoots upward, the Mustangs begin to roll, the ground trembling beneath them. Marcus leads them toward the runway, feeling the moment sharpen into something historic. Today they fly not to defend their worth, but to declare it beyond doubt. The squad lifts off in perfect formation, climbing into a sky that grows darker with every mile they push east. clouds gather like walls, broken only by shafts of cold light. As they near the border, Marcus signals radio silence, knowing they're entering a zone where even a whisper can draw fire. The first sign of trouble appears as faint glints far below. Enemy positions waiting for any shadow daring to cross their territory. Torch murmurs that he doesn't like the stillness, and Marcus agrees. Danger rarely announces itself. The bombers march forward, trusting the red tails to punch a hole through the storm. Suddenly, distant dots rise from the horizon. Enemy fighters, climbing fast. Marcus orders the squad to spread wide, creating a shield line the bombers can't survive without. His voice stays low but sharp as steel. The sky tightens around them, shrinking into a battlefield drawn by fate. Marcus steadies his breathing. This is the moment command expected them to fail. He intends to prove them wrong. The enemy fighters surge upward, turning the sky into a tightening trap. Tracers cut through the air as the first wave attacks. Marcus sends half the squad to intercept while keeping the rest close to the bombers. Torch charges ahead with fierce precision, forcing the enemy to break formation. Gearbox reports minor damage but holds steady. Marcus makes a climbing turn that places him above the attackers, then dives to scatter them before they can regroup. The bombers press forward, trusting the red tails to clear a path through chaos. Marcus sees an enemy fighter break low, angling behind one of his men. Without hesitation, he cuts across the battlefield, firing a burst that drives the enemy back. The squad holds firm, their discipline outmatching the swarm of hostile fighters. As the sky shifts from panic to control, Marcus feels a surge of pride rise from deep within. Command may have doubted their worth, but the truth is written now in every trail of smoke behind them. They are more than pilots. They are protectors of men who once doubted they belonged in the air at all. The air grows colder as the red tails push deeper into enemy territory, the bombers lumbering ahead like steel giants dragging shadows across the clouds. Marcus feels the strain in every breath. The earlier attacks were only the beginning. Torch reports scattered fighters circling below, waiting for the right moment to strike. Marcus orders everyone to stay tight. Discipline is the only weapon that won't jam. Gearbox warns of fuel concerns, but Marcus pushes forward, trusting their timing more than their gauges. Then, without warning, a second wave of enemy fighters bursts from a bank of dark clouds, firing wildly. The bombers shake under the assault, their formation wobbling. Marcus surges upward and cuts across the attack line, forcing the fighters to scatter. The squad follows his lead, moving like a single force rather than separate planes. The sky becomes chaos again, but this time the red tails control the rhythm. Marcus finds himself in a deadly dance, balancing defense and strike with every twitch of the controls. The mission stretches ahead like a promise and a threat. No turning back now. The sky churns into a storm of gunfire as Marcus threads his Mustang between enemy fighters, diving straight toward the bombers. Torch breaks left, shouting that two enemies are slipping underneath. Marcus orders Gearbox to drop altitude and intercept, trusting him to handle what could be a fatal maneuver. The bombers rumble forward, their engines straining as flak bursts scatter around them like fiery flout. Marcus spots a cluster of fighters forming behind the center bomber, an attack meant to break the entire line. He pushes his Mustang into a steep climb, then loops behind the attackers, firing fast bursts that force them apart. The formation stabilizes, but only barely. Torch shouts triumph as he scores a hit, but Marcus immediately reminds him to stay disciplined. Victory isn't about kills, it's about what survives. As the last of the attackers retreat for now, Marcus takes a breath and scans the horizon. The silence feels wrong, heavy with something unseen. He knows another test is coming, one harder than the rest. Moments later, the danger reveals itself. 3 elite enemy fighters rise from below, flying with a precision that tells Marcus they're no ordinary pilots. Their movements are sharp, clean, and unforgiving. Torch warns they're cutting off the return path, boxing them into a kill zone. Marcus calls for a defensive circle around the bombers, but these enemies move faster than expected, slipping through openings that shouldn't exist. Gearbox cries out as one fighter clips his wing with a burst of gunfire, but he manages to hold steady. Marcus locks onto the lead enemy and feels immediately that this pilot is different. Cold, skilled, almost surgical. The duel begins instantly, each movement pushing Marcus harder than before. The enemy tries to drag him away from the formation, but Marcus refuses to break. He stays locked in, reading every shift of the fighter ahead. The bombers depend on him, the squad depends on him, and the truth of who they are hangs in the balance. He tightens the arc and prepares for a moment that may never come twice. The dogfight tightens as Marcus follows the elite fighter through rapid turns that strain his plane and pull sweat from every nerve. The enemy twists through cloud layers with a mastery that forces Marcus to push his Mustang to its limits. Torch tries to join the chase, but Marcus orders him back. This fight requires precision, not numbers. The enemy fighter suddenly climbs at a sharp angle, disappearing into the sun's glare, forcing Marcus to predict instead of react. For a heartbeat, he sees nothing, only blinding light. Then the fighter bursts downward in a perfect ambush. Marcus jerks the controls, avoiding the burst by inches. The shock rattles him. But instead of fear, something steadier rises inside. He knows he can match this pilot. He feels the rhythm of the fight now, the timing, the angles, the intent. Marcus flips into a tight roll, catching the enemy off guard, and begins closing the distance. The air vibrates with tension. One wrong choice ends everything. One right choice changes everything. One right choice changes everything. At last, Marcus gains the angle he needs. The enemy tries one final evasive climb, but Marcus anticipates it, cutting the turn early and lining up his sights. For a long second, everything slows. The engine hums steady. The sky opens clear, and the weight of the mission rests in his hands. He fires. The enemy fighter shudders as smoke pours from its side, spiraling downward in a trail that marks the end of the threat. Torch cheers, his voice cracking from the tension, finally breaking. Gearbox reports that he's wounded but airborne, holding his line. The bombers continue forward, shaken but alive. Marcus exhales, feeling exhaustion and triumph collide. They aren't just surviving, they're commanding the sky. As the red tails regroup, Marcus scans the horizon. What he sees steals his breath. The final stretch home, a path clear of enemies. The hardest battle is behind them, and the truth is now undeniable. They weren't expected to return, but they will, carrying proof that can no longer be silenced. The red tails cross back into friendly territory, the sky brightening as if welcoming them home. Marcus feels the tightness in his chest slowly release, though he keeps his eyes sharp for any last threat. Torch hums a triumphant tune over the radio, shaky but proud, while Gearbox breathes heavier than usual as he nurses his damaged plane. The bombers spread into landing formation, their silver bodies glinting like quiet trophies of survival. As they descend, Marcus senses something shifting, not just in the air, but in the story others will tell when they see every bomber return. The squad touches down one by one, wheels hitting the runway like thunder rolling across the earth. Mechanics and crew members freeze in disbelief, staring at the complete formation. Marcus parks his Mustang and pauses, hands still on the throttle, letting the truth sink in. They didn't just survive the deadliest mission. They shattered every doubt cast on them. Today, the sky wrote their name in a language no one can erase. The moment the last plane stops, the airfield erupts with movement. Mechanics sprint toward the Mustangs, counting bullet holes with wide eyes. Bomber crews climb out, staring at the red tails with a mix of disbelief and rising respect. Torch jumps from his cockpit, laughing loudly, claiming the sky tried to eat him but gave up. Gearbox leans against his damaged wing, whispering thanks to the machine that carried him home. Naomi rushes through the crowd, eyes full of relief, as she checks each pilot with gentle hands. Marcus steps out last, scanning the scene as whispers spread. Whispers not of doubt, but of awe. For the first time, voices around the field speak of the Red Tails with admiration. Even pilots who mock them stand silent, forced to face the reality that courage and discipline don't follow the rules of prejudice. Justice has arrived not as a speech, but as a living moment unfolding across the airfield. A briefing is called immediately, but this time the atmosphere, instead of cold doubt, the tent fills with restless curiosity. Major Kessler stands at the front, rigid as always, but something fractured in his posture, something humbled. Marcus and the squad take their seats, still dusty and exhausted but holding their heads high. Kessler begins by recounting the mission details, each line confirming what the base already knows. The Red Tails accomplished the impossible. No bombers lost. Multiple enemy waves defeated. The deepest escort run completed with perfect discipline. The tent falls silent as the truth settles. Kessler looks at Marcus with a stare that no longer hides prejudice, only reluctant respect. He states that the Red Tails have earned priority status for future high-value missions. Torch grins, Gearbox exhales, and Naomi watches from the entrance with a soft smile. Marcus nods once, calm and steady. Justice didn't come from apology. It came from undeniable proof. After the briefing, the sun hangs low, painting the airfield in gold as the squad steps outside. Word travels fast. Faster than engines, faster than doubt. Crews gather around the Red Tails, shaking hands, asking questions, listening with new respect. For the first time, the airfield feels united. Torch reenacts his wild turn with dramatic gestures, making everyone laugh. Gearbox talks with bomber mechanics, sharing tips instead of tension. Naomi walks beside Marcus, telling him the base hasn't sounded this alive in months. Marcus looks out across the runway, watching the red tails of their Mustangs glow like symbols carved into the world. He realizes the squad's greatest victory isn't the number of enemies they defeated, it's the truth they forced into the open. The kind of truth that changes minds, rewrites expectations, and breaks the chains of old lies. Night settles over the base with a quiet warmth. The squad gathers near the runway, staring at the silhouettes of their Mustangs glowing under lantern light. Torch leans back, saying the sky felt different today, as if it finally listened. Gearbox nods, admitting he had feared the world would never see them as equal, no matter how well they flew. Marcus looks at each of them, knowing the battle for respect isn't over, but something irreversible happened today. Naomi joins them, telling Marcus that their story will reach places they've never seen. The men fall silent, letting her words settle. Marcus lifts his gaze to the dark sky, thinking of the enemy fighters they faced, the doubts they dismantled, and the truth they carried home. He whispers that justice doesn't roar, it endures. The squad nods, their spirits steady, their brotherhood unbreakable. The red tails stand together as the night deepens, knowing history will remember what the airfield saw today. Courage that silenced the airwaves.